testing this second-hand thrift store rain trench coat. Thank you to my anonymous friend who was my friend because of the money. If I make a man, I'm gonna give it to him on these steel toe boots. Just a little bit of jog, run around the neighborhood. So as we go, so I guess I'm gonna have to keep the camera close by like this. It's gonna be a rare occasion because it's starting to rain. It wasn't supposed to rain. Grateful, thankful my rent is paid. Paid my electricity bill, got food and coffee, and gonna see how it goes with that. And that's how we gotta get doing with that. And be careful here when I turn left or right, you know, because you never know. And the brakes might malfunction, and that's what it is with the rock and rolling. And my friend there in the car, and my fellow brothers and sisters, and all across the North American Collective here with that beautiful translucent green. We gotta get it for that rock and roll. TA. Mod. 42 makes me think of the laws of mod. Not transgress the 42, and that's how we gotta get going. Consent, hygiene, rock and roll with it, and encouraging all to, of course, be prudent on the roads and, you know, get that transgression for that. And that's what we're gonna get doing on the XYZ, and that's what we're gonna get doing here, you know. So here we are, crossing the street and testing this special on the budget. See somebody jogging left or right, turn your hips, encouraging all the workout, train, exercise. I'm still a bit sore because last week and the week before was pretty intense, you know. Broke, I guess, some 2025 record for my workout training program, and got to twist those hips left and right, do some push-ups, hog squats. And I always say your fitness journey commences now. Today is gonna wait for the car here, waste no time because I'm on the clock. Gotta go do some math and turn the hips left and right, and be careful, of course, when the cars pass because you never know. The brakes malfunction potentially. I think I got another trash, so that's how we rock and roll. Leave a little bit of that collective and put a little bit of the individual, you know, the individual and the collective. Watch the cars. When you cross the street, you gotta watch those cars. Be prudent, extra prudent with the cars crossing by because you never know. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful car, you see. So you always gotta be prudent, you know, you never know. Cars malfunction, the brakes malfunction, the electricity, of course, malfunctions, and that's what can happen potentially. So you always turn your heads left and right, you know. Always turn your heads left and right when you cross the street. And yeah, I'm in the public, so I got added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, you know. Body first, you know. So the rest, you know, metals on wheels. Some are more fancy than others. And we're stressed, you know, overly financially stressed, a lot of us. Strike on the horizon, and it's funny because I applied to the 3rd, 4th, 5th or something job, and to Post Canada cannot post, and supposedly there's a strike looming Friday. So last time I got interrupted my employment opportunity due to the strike, but you know, it's not about me because it's tens of thousands of workers. And you know, as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and philosopher of the North American Collective of Quebec, Canada, La Belle Province, I always think for myself and for the other because I'm not totally selfish. And you know, that's a lot of jobs at work, 50,000, and I have some theories and ideas, and mainly, if you know from the past videos, and it takes the DRT, debt refusion theory, the DRT, debt refusion theory for the collective, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta get those drills. And here we are, screwing a little bit of that cleaning. And you know, it's always work with me as an independent artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical theoretical analyst, and theorist, and of course all those, of course, who are to join me in this adventure through pain, suffering, struggle, and we've got plenty of scars. Survived COVID 2020, still financially stressed, but my rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, got that food, got that coffee, and left to admire a little bit of the whiteys here. White flowers, let's see if they got some smell. Slightly scented. Quite cute, actually. It embellished me, put a big smile on my face, and they're kind of smiling. It's like, leave us alone, don't smell us, don't touch us, and certainly don't bring us home. We're good. So that's what it goes there, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know. And again, my fitness journey begins today. I lost between 80 and 93 pounds ever since I crossed Canada coast to coast, back in 2017, you know. before that period, and in summer 2017 crossed Canada coast to coast. First went to Vancouver, BC, and then in September went, of course, to Halifax, Nova Scotia. And that event really changed my whole life. I really was depressed, suicidal before that, and after that, you know, I gotta be transmissive here. It is nice. I'm gonna take some sandwiches, I guess, and for myself and for my anonymous friend. And I know these are just the buns. These are a bit of bagels, and I'm definitely gonna take some sandwiches for myself and for my friend, you know, so that's always real, that's always good. And I'm gonna leave some for others, of course, and that's how I'm gonna rock and roll with these sandwiches. And just give me a little moment. I put in this nice blue bag. One sandwich. Just get on the egg and gotta split it, and that's what it is with that. Another egg sandwich. And another one. And that's it for myself and for my young friend. And that's it, so really love that we have that availability here, and that's something which this has to be closed because it's sometimes windy, so you always got to be prudent, you know. Close that there, and hey, I'm very grateful, extremely grateful for that food which was put, and you know, that's what it is with that. And so it is something which we got to be doing. And my fellow auntie, cousins, grandma, here my family, the North American Collectif, as I go around about it. So now I'm even double, triple happy. You know, I got sandwiches, and it alleviates my financial stress, you know, because I'm going to spend less on food, and I'm already in the red, and that little helps there. I just got to disinfect my hand, and I left some of those buns for somebody else, some food for somebody else. So that's always good to go, rock and roll with that. So I'm always got to be on that gratitude 24/7 for the food. Food security starts with the food producers, small farmers, still a small family, from the small family farms to the medium big, to the small medium, and to the big and mega and super mega big corporations which produce our food, you know. I guess in one of those sandwiches you can find 3 different ones, eh? And even 4 or 5 different businesses, because it takes the transportation, the processing of the wheat, you know. I am going to go a little bit of a geopolitics tangent, a little bit of geopolitical analysis, the geopolitics of the North American sandwich. And I do put it in North America because my brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, the king is absent. The king is an absentee landlord. The king is an absentee landlord. It's time for the Republic. And my DRT theory is the only solution, or something very, very similar which resembles it. You can argue all you want. But my debt refusion theory, where we are now, both Canada and United States, being in a similar precarious financial situation, there's no way around it. There's no way around it. And that's all we got to get doing with that. And we got to get on the promissory, on a big proposition. That is the implementation of my DRT for the North American Collectif. So you can see, of course, how in this way a sandwich, I'm gonna turn and go zigzag a bit and go all the way to the corner, hydrate, and come back. It's just a little bit an hour today. Not too long today, you know, compared to my 7 hours last week, Monday, and 6 hours, and 5 hours a few times, which we clocked it in big. And I'm just gonna zigzag it a little bit today, you know, through my neighborhood around about, and gonna discuss the geopolitics of the sandwich. So the sandwich might have ingredients that are imported or from other countries, of course, now with the tariffs, and that was the Donald Trump's mistake to impose tariffs, is something which was not easily admitted, but Donald Trump just say, on Canada in 2018 I made a mistake. I made lots of mistakes, lots of errors myself, and living with this neurological mental divergent condition of Asperger's, my communication style and the way of course I direct my ideas and communicate, and I am verbose in my marching dance rock and roll art, because it's rock and roll 24/7 with this independent Asby artist athlete, and geopolitics and rock and roll and fitness and sports, dancing being my favorite sport on these steel toes, for the farmers, for the butchers, for the bakers, for the truckers, for the nurses, firefighters, those in construction, teachers, electricians, the plumbers, the bakers, please NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, give 44.9% reduction of the tickets, and give some tickets, give some tickets, of course, give some tickets to the workers in the public, because it takes that PPP, meaning the public-private partnership. So back, of course, to Asperger's, the way I communicate sometimes, my sentences and the way my ideas and propositions and protocols and initiatives are put forward can be perhaps sometimes overly academic and intellectual. I try to be as simple as I can sometimes, although some of my initiatives, theories, especially when it comes to the North American Civilisation or collective realm for the Defense, Security and Service, the SSD, Security, Service and Defense, of which my call for the Public-Private Partnership Dragon Army, aka North American Integrated Legion, to be created ASAP for the 63, based on my philosophies and protocols, the new 911 North American Integrated Dragon Total Service, Total Security, Total Defense initiatives for total security, total service, total defense initiatives, to be formulated in a manner, of course, which we have on the congruent side of things. And here we are, myself financially stressed, financial stress, and see how that tree goes. You see the beauty of the tree. It's kind of split ramifications. You can just admire the beauty of the tree there. You have beautiful trees and beautiful architecture in Montreal, and I'm so grateful that in this big metropolis island of 2.5 million people, we still have so much beauty and diversity, and of course eloquence, even architectural eloquence and diversity, and of course we have so much beauty in nature and civilization. Takes two to tango with that, and that's all we gotta get doing together. Just like my dream is fundamentally a public-private partnership, a public-private partnership, a PPP, public-private partnership. That's what it is. The Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, to implement my Trinity of TVs, the CIT, Citizen Integration TV, the DRT, Debt Refusion TV, and the DFT, the Democratic Fusion TV. My dream is fundamentally a public-private partnership call to all willingly loving. And that's all we gotta get doing with that, and that's all we gotta get on the I'm saying trans implementation, because of course my dream is a binational affair. It's a North American collective, Canada, United States, for the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, 10 provinces, 50 states, 10. Wow, that is so beautiful. Wow, I just love it. I like yellow flowers, but this pink rosé is kind of such a beauty. Right there in the corner. That's pretty cool. I just love it. Beautiful rosé. So beautiful, just there in the corner. Flowers, I love flowers. Mostly yellow flowers, although red. RED is my favorite colors. I'm wearing the hoodie. Auctioning it for $1 million. Auctioning the underwear, the pants, the hoodie, the socks, and auctioning my clothing for $1 million to give half, 50% to my anonymous friend in that backpack. I got those red gloves, which were gifted a few years ago after I started challenging Donald Trump. After Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel back in 2018, 10% back then, and it's been 7 years since that mistake. Because fundamentally, as an independent geopolitical theorist and theorist, and due to the, I'm going to say, curse was becoming a blessing on the table proposed, and my initiatives are solutions for the North American collective, albeit for what I call the great North American civilizational complex, and of course for the North American civilizational complex for what it is, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get on the transgressive side of things, and that's what we gotta get doing, for the situational awareness of where we are now, that is the solution, and that is the solution to what we gotta get doing, and so we're gonna get doing with the implementation of the DRT, the debt refusion theory, and the CIT, citizen integration theory, and the DFT, the democratic fusion theory, to create two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions for service, security, and defense only. SSD for service, security, and defense only. SSD for service, security, and defense only. For service, security, and defense only. That is the complementary, which we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get on the transmissive side of things here. Some more work is gonna come. Go Public Workers Go is the rock and roll song, androgynous artist, athlete, centrist. My centrism is pro-labor and love, nonetheless. So some more work is done, and beautiful flowers there. Wow, those are really gorgeous again. Gonna have to take a little bit of zoom in. Wow. I'm gonna try to smell them from afar, but quite nice. Quite nice. Love it, love it, love it. That's what I'm gonna say on that. So back to, of course, Donald Trump, is that's when I came into politics, from being an observer, from the sidelines. Just came out of my depression, moved a few years before that, before 2017, 2018, and I was coming out of being depressed, being suicidal. I moved there with nothing really, I just got that retrograde amnesia, memory loss, and blackouts. It's problematic. I can't access my memories. I have trouble accessing memories in my life. Wow, these are beautiful, so nice. Could have to smell them. Have a scent, slight scent, not so big, but I love the color, the brightness, the vivid bright colors. It's just so alive. Makes you a little good loving rock and roll song, So yeah, I have trouble accessing memories of my life, prior to me moving. Alright. So if I go 11 years, then it's kind of before that, it's kind of a blackout. So like 7, perfect memory, 7, 8, it starts getting blurry, 9, it starts getting foggy, 10, it starts being very obscured, and 11th, and before that's like kind of blackouts, So, anyways, what's more important is my work post me coming out of being depressed and suicidal, not just on my fitness journey, but the great intellectual, academic, and of course, mostly academic, intellectual, philosophical work, as it relates to geopolitics, because I have Asperger's, and this condition makes that my brain is mutated. So Asperger's, people who are Aspies, were part of a tiny minority, less than half of a percentile, so less than 1%, about 0.44% only. So there's not a lot of people who would have this condition, which is confused often with a mental illness. It's definitely not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition, of course. It makes me predisposed, to obsessive interest, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get on that rock and roll, So makes us, of course, being special interest. We have special interests, and we have certain ways which we communicate, which are kind of awkward, weird, and socially we can be pretty awkward. But when it comes to our special interests, we can be pretty intense, pretty concentrated, pretty dedicated. And those Asperger's, Aspies like myself, have to be encouraged, supported when involved in those special interests. And mine happen to be my holy trinity. Besides loving flowers, geopolitics, 24/7. Geopolitics, and now we have another load of worldwide events on the daily basis. They happen, but I specialize in the 20th century, and on a day-to-day basis, as I do analysis on events that are occurring every day. It's a daily occurrence, and geopolitics always changing, always fluctuates, and there's new treaties, new developments, new conflicts, and all conflicts are reignited as I have predicted. I take great pride in my independent geopolitical theoretical analysis as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who in 2019 I have predicted what's happening now. That's beautiful. October 2019, I predicted what's happening now in October 2019. October 2019, I have predicted what's happening now. So that's what it is, and that's what it is with that. So That's what I gotta get doing, you know. So we gotta get those propositions and the implementation of my theories, which are fundamentally for the North American collective, and of course all who come to join us, because we're a new and emergent civilizational complex. So back to Asperger's again, is a neurological mental divergent condition. There's mutations in an N.A.C.P brain is different, and I'm different, and Aspies were different. Certain things we just have trouble with, such as personal space. We tend to breach it and come very close to certain citizens, and to the point of 2-3 inches and things of that nature, which of course we happen to have. So those things can be pretty intimidating, pretty weird, pretty like WTF type of situation, you know, which, you know, in trouble maintaining friendships. And there's a very high unemployment rate, unfortunately, very high unemployment rate among Aspies. So Aspies, there's a, wow, isn't this gorgeous? I have to smell. Now, you know I love yellow flowers. These are tiny yellow. Oh my goodness. Smells like, I'm gonna say smells like sperm. Smells like sperm. At least my sperm. I got a little dick clit, androgynous, 50-50, you know. I'm a man and I'm a woman, but to me it smells a bit like sperm. Maybe it's the sun's sperm, I don't know, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Wow, it's just gorgeous. I'm gonna smell it again. To me it does smell. What does it smell to you? Maybe something else, but oh yeah. Has a little bit of a smell like sperm, you know. Anyways, holy, of a sperm is holy, you know, sacred, and sexuality, my sexuality is just weird, you know. Do you want to love with me? You know, black, white, rainbow, man, woman, you know. I've been open and being pansexual, being part of the LGBTQ community for many years now. It's nothing that I've been out of the closet for many years, and just friends with benefits from now on. Friends with benefits, and nice, beautiful, you know, friends with benefits. And sometimes Aspies, we can be pretty direct and straightforward and can offend or things like that, but we just tell us, and we're, you know, we're not violent or criminals or anymore. It's just that unfortunately it's a misunderstanding about Asperger's. Our brain there's mutations in our brain. So my brain has these mutations, and due to those mutations, my holy daily rituals, routines revolve around my special interests, and those special interests are geopolitics. Just the day I did laundry, I'm grateful, thankful to have the laundry machine, washer and dryer, and of course brains and muscle, and my anonymous friend who finance, because that's what money is, to buy, sell, and, you know, blah blah blah. But I gotta be grateful for that, although I kind of broke the handle, so I wish I could have money to buy my anonymous friend a house. If I ever make $1 million, $1 billion, $1 trillion, I'm gonna give 50%, no doubt, half 50%, just like, you know, sun and moon type of situation. And because I guess I got tolerated, you know, with Asperger's has been pretty difficult, you know. It's very hard for neurotypicals sometimes, because our brains are mutated, right? So these mutations make us awkward and make us super kind of intense, concentrated, intense, and focused in those special interests. But sometimes it comes to the detriment of other things, you know, And geopolitically, that's my kingdom, you know, that's my domain, my kingdom. Sports and fitness, dancing being my favorite sport, and rock and roll, that's my holy trinity. And again, of course, you gotta be 18 plus, I guess. I'm gonna card you just like when you go to get some liquor, get some booze, get some legal cannabis here, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. That's how I'm gonna proceed, you know. If you ever want to LOV with yours truly, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. So we're gonna get doing on that go. So basically that's what it is. With Asperger's is a mutation of the brain. So that's is the motive why we our behavior, our characteristics, and how we interact with the world can seem very strange and bizarre and awkward and weird. And this is beautiful again. Oh yeah, it smells so good. Just bliss, you know. I just love it. Isn't this beautiful here on the what such made my day. Flowers and going out because I work out every day. But today I was so intense in geopolitics, and of course each load takes about 2 hours, and washing an hour and drying an hour. So that's one load, 1 hour plus 1 hour just to do a load. So I did 2 loads, so that's 4 hours of laundry, and then I gotta get doing. See here, there's water. I'm gonna hydrate. And get back to the geopolitics of the sandwich in a bit. Geopolitics of the sandwich in a bit. Hold on.
Tomorrow.
So grateful to the workers who build it with brains and muscle. Imagine underneath, eh? Take some brains, take some muscle to build that, and I'm certainly grateful for having access to drink a little bit of that hydration on my workout. A little bit of a shorty today because I spend time doing laundry, and I gotta get back by 6 p.m. and do some brain, do some math, and then I guess it's back to checking my email, see how my Canada Post applications for the job are going, and other jobs that I applied, and I just gotta keep doing. And Asperger's again, due to the fact that my hyper-focused hour, because Aspies we have what's called special interest, also known as obsessive interest, which really take a whole lot of our daily habits and routines, again sometimes to the detriment of other things. So Aspies have to be supported in these things because, see, I know that my work in geopolitics, which sometimes I cannot discuss it too much because it's national security sensitive, to be correct, binational, because I always include the United States, not just because I'm a mistake. I was born in the United States 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man, serving in the same United States Armed Forces, 156 years apart, and that's what we're gonna go doing for the world peace, for the 50 states, 10 provinces and 3 territories, 10 provinces, 50 states and 3 territories. That's 63, 10 plus 50 plus 3, 10 provinces, plus 50 states, that's 60 plus 3 territories, that's 363 for the 63. The Dragon Army, Public-Private Partnership, North American Integrated Security Service and Defense Legion, to operate by the SSD principle only, which I discussed in the past, and we'll discuss again. Gonna get a little bit of smell. Oh, it smells so good. This one smells also good. For the SSD, my protocols initiatives are solely and only for rebirth regeneration, and SSD, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, for the 63. SSD, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. I gotta love that blue, something which I gotta get a little bit of credit for. The nice choice of colors, even if red is my favorite, some of these bright colors I love. So to finalize on Asperger's, again, Aspie brains are different. There's these mutations, and a lot of our focus is directed towards those special interests, of which mine happen to be my holy trinity: geopolitics, 24/7, sports, fitness, dancing is my favorite sport, and rock and roll. I always rock and roll for the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, truckers, and the firefighters on the road with a beautiful school. Look at those flowers. Here we go. I gotta cast a look at the sky in case, and that's the earth. We gotta do it for the left and for the right and for the middle, for the North American Collectif. The flowers gotta be blue. Oh yeah, I rock and roll. I guess I'm the 2025. I guess I can self-declare Prince of Rock and Roll. Prince, somebody else's king. I know you got many kings, I guess, of rock and roll, but I guess still the end. I guess I'm gonna say I'm gonna be the prince of rock and roll. And turn your head left and right before you cross the street. I do advise you, and if there stops there, you gotta get it on the door. And I gotta do my own diligence. I just wanted to see the red door here because I like red, and I was just thinking a little bit of something else on the parallel side, and it's something which I gotta finalize on Asperger's again. The problem is many Aspies encounter misunderstandings, and there's a high unemployment rate for Aspies. Very high, sometimes more than 44%, more than 44, so that's close, even sometimes certain regions close to half. It's a lot. And again, it's not a mental illness. It is often confused with a mental illness, and that can be construed as a mental illness, and it's not a mental illness. Our brains are mutated. We have certain characteristics that can seem strange, and it's just characteristics, not symptoms, because it's not an illness. It's our brains are mutated. That's just the way it is with Aspies, and we have to be encouraged in those special interests. I don't have a PhD, but I self-declare as a people's doctor of the North American Collective in geopolitics. And again, I come back to 2019, November 2019. I predicted what is happening now in 2019 in October. I predicted an international conflagration, a worldwide conflict. In the international order of things is going to be fractured. There's going to be new alliances, and that we had known since, I guess, 78. Deng Xiaoping's opening with China. That is going to change, and now we got the trade wars, and we had wars in the Middle East, Europe, and the rearmament of Germany requires again hours and hours and hours of geopolitical analysis. That Germany has kind of the black sheep of the world in a way because of World War I and World War II. Hey, this is nice. Wonder. I have to see red. Wow, it's a beauty. Let's build. Is it Ford? Yeah. Wow. Leisure travel vans. Oh, it's very nice. Got the Canada, Quebec. Super nice. It says made in Canada. Triple E made in Canada. Oh, it's nice. Leisure. I love it. Let's build 300 like this for the North American Collective, for the Dragonomy Red, for the SSD. Oh, thank you. Fellow citizen lets me pass. See, my head's turned. That's why you turn your heads left and right, It would have been better for me to cross at the stop sign, but I always turn my head left and right to avoid, crossing the street. It's prudence, because I got added responsibilities, added duties, duties and obligations, which are not normally under the circumstances of life. And that's how we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta get an XYZ, So that's how we gotta get doing like that, So it is XYZ, it is XYZ with that, and that's how we gotta get doing. That's what we gotta get doing with that, rock and roll. See our beautiful flowers? So that is the Aspie brain, mutated, and that's how I live with it. And I got something in my right eye, and that's how I gotta get doing with that, to get on the love side of things. And love is also important, because I will to love, and I will to be loved, and his friends will benefits only. And the song is, pledge your allegiance to our family, pledge your allegiance to our family, pledge your allegiance to our family. And that's how I gotta get doing with that. And sometimes which we gotta get doing on the love side of things, my eye, right eye. See here, they got some more construction, which began May 5th. And gotta celebrate this rock and roll, some rock and roll for them. Please give for the North American public workers a little bit of that. Give them some tickets. Beautiful flowers here. Look at that red. Isn't that gorgeous? Love it. Oh my goodness. I just love these here. How they are done is so beautiful. Good job on this. Just elevates my whole walk, just brightens my whole march workout. And gonna give some salutation to the public workers. Please, NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB. I've been calling for years during COVID to give some tickets to the public workers, those who pick up the garbage, the sanitation, and the recycling. Super important to do so, because they are workers, and we gotta get it on the work side of things. It takes a public and a private, as we are on the verge of a Canada, United States public-private financial collapse. It's record debt. I have $10,000 in debt. I lost a lot of jobs, a lot of employment. I had many jobs, many employments during COVID. I really liked them, and I really had a lot of jobs and a lot of employments during COVID, and which I really loved, But hello, what you want? Want some Kit Kat? Want some kitties? Licked me. It's a kind of a happy one, but kind of like, give me some, you know. I wish, but I'm financially stressed, you know. $10,000 in DEBT, man. And bunch of Canada and United States, a lot of citizens we are record-breaking debt levels. Record-breaking debt levels, eh? Record-breaking credit cards. And record-breaking interest on the public debt. We have record-breaking interest on the public debt. So that's why I gotta discuss the DRT, and again, to finalize out on Asperger's. It's not a mental illness. Our brains are mutated. We have these special interests. Sometimes we're so focused, intense, and concentrated when we're involved in them that is to the detriment of other things, of the social nature, you know, around the house maybe. Although I try to clean, but I could always clean more. And I encourage all to keep the hygiene, which was established, implemented during COVID, the coronavirus, which I had. You know, I thought I was gonna die. Thought that was it for me. I said coronavirus, COVID. I thought that was it. I'm done. I thought my days are finished, and that's what I thought with that. And that's how we gonna do it here for the public workers. Give them a little bit of work and a little bit of something to do, and a little bit of that good. And that's what we gotta get doing on that XYZ, you know. So something which I always admire. Wow, I wonder how much those weigh. How much those steel weigh, just as a unit of measures, you know. I wonder how much they weigh there. Something which, of course, I'm prone to just wonder, because I know that it takes brains and muscle, you know, to for the public workers and all the work, the labor that they do and they have done in the 20th century. D for Dragon or Deutschland, D for Dragon or Deutschland, D for Dragon or Deutschland, on the plates I'm referring. And so sometimes my vision is blurred. It gets blurred sometimes. I gotta check my eyes again. I was prescribed some some glasses, but unfortunately, of course, the country's only gonna finance a little bit, and a little bit of financing for the glasses, and so we're gonna get doing with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing on the love, you know. So it's something which we're gonna get, and sometimes which we have to be on the intermittent side of things, and we have to get on that crossing of the street prudently. First and foremostly, because I'm in the public, I got added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which under the normal circumstances of life, they would have not happened, not occurred, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the go. That's what we're gonna get doing now. So it's something which we have, and something which we have as a common collective, you know, because it takes the individual and the collective. If I don't do it, somebody else doesn't do it, then it adds to our increased insecurity. So security with liberty, it's always a constant. It's always the individual and the collective. Myself as an individual who's financially stressed, and I know others are super financially stressed as well, because, you know, I know a little bit of the statistics, mathematical financial principles, and we have rich Canada, United States, both record-breaking debt. So that's why I'm going to discuss the DRT now. And to just say one thing on ASPs have to be supported, understood, and supported in those special interests as much as one can, and I require minimal support myself. So DRT, debt refusion theory, DRT, debt refusion theory. Now I'm going to discuss it as I look at these beautiful flowers here. I'm going to turn. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, stands for D, debt, R, refusion, T, theory. The acronym DRT is my theory, financial theory, which has to be implemented with love, understanding, and wisdom and knowledge. And the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom that we have reached today, record-breaking, both public and private financial emergency, because a lot of the debt has more than doubled. Just the interest on the public debt of Canada has more than doubled. You can check the numbers for yourself, from 20.3 billion to 46.5 billion, and of course these numbers you can check and recheck, but the point is that the interest only on the public debt has grown so much due to the fact that we had to implement so many protocols during the coronavirus, during the COVID era, which I had COVID. For me it was like death, pestilence, and disease. I really thought that was my last chapter, and somehow I survived COVID, and I got triple vaccinated for that COVID, and gonna cross here the street prudently, and I got triple vaxxed, and that was a good thing which I did with my situation. And I'm gonna turn my head left and right here, and go around about parallel to that street, because if I stay here I'm gonna be too much in the noise with the cars. There are more cars there, so I'm gonna make an assessment and decision to smell this one again. Oh, it smells so good. Nice. So, because we have record debt, both public and private, and the fact that the public debt has more than doubled during COVID, less than 3 years. So consequently, the mathematical financial principle, there has been so much of an increase in just the interest paid on the public debt, more than double. You can check the numbers for yourself, from 20.3 billion to 46.5 billion, or the numbers have probably increased again since the last revision, a few months ago. So due to that fact, I'm making that statement that my only solution is that my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, which inside my DRT debt refusion theory is integrated monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. That was the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. The monetary integration theory, not to be confused with the MIT of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston, but the monetary integration theory, which is of course the Europeans, which they did, is the creation of the ECB, European Central Bank, and the issuance of the euro. Several countries, Germany, Italy, France, other countries annulled, destroyed their national central banks, and they created the ECB, the European Central Bank. I'm right? Yes, he said, go Dragon go. No OnlyFans, because nothing to see there, but beautiful things, and gotta get the DRT, debt refusion theory, DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange theory, something which of course has to be implemented. We have to implement the DRT, the debt refusion theory, or something similar, if not my DRT theory, if not my theory, there's something similar. Oh, no food waste. Is it still good? This is probably gonna heal me, double my brain size. I guess my brain's regenerated already, but I can't see. I wonder if there's tariffs on it. I retrieved it, otherwise it's probably gonna get crushed, make lemon juice here on the street. Make lemon juice here on the streets, with the cars, and I'm gonna put it to good use. It's not that fresh, but it can still be yours, I live in that World War III mode with the possibility of a thermonuclear war on the horizon, It's food waste, this probably comes from maybe Florida, California even, or maybe it's even grown here in a greenhouse, but I doubt it. I think it's imported, although it's so small on it, I can't really tell what it is. And back to what I was saying, the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, we gotta get on that, go with that, and that's how we're gonna get doing, and get the DRT, debt refusion theory. DRT, debt refusion theory is something which we have to implement, because we're on the verge of a both public and private financial collapse. It could start tomorrow. It could start today already. Listen, nuclear war can start any second, any minute, any day, Is it World War III? I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure, but I predicted what's happening now. Back in 2019, I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. I predicted what's happening now in November 2019. I predicted, not exactly detail by detail what's going on, but in a general manner, I predicted the international conflicts which we have now, an international conflagration, a World War III type of scenario. Hey, that's cool. I like that, the cauldron there. Brew some DRT, and the DRT, I gotta give a shout out to an anonymous acquaintance, and who gifted me, I think, 2018 Christmas holidays. Well, it was semi-conspiratorial, but it had real information about ancient Egyptian, Babylonian, Sumerian, ancient China, and the modern British Empire, financial, economic, banking system, mercantilism. There was a big chapter on mercantilist Britain, British Empire, how to use mercantilism and other systems of banking and loans, and Christopher Columbus. But a bit on the conspiratorial side, and it was dedicated. Oh, watch it when you back off, because you know, gotta be prudent, you know, because. Till the end. So we had a little bit of information about also a lot of the chapters were dedicated to the 2007-2010, the financial crisis, also known as the Great Recession, between July 2007 and February 2010, the one that occurred March 2010, some say even September 2010. That started in summer 2007, the Great Recession. The Great Recession, it's called, technically. The Great Recession, it's called. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? So part of the theory is inspired by that book, which I read several times. I wrote notes on it, and then it was big calculations and prognosis for what the future financial possibility would look like due to the increasing in card use and debt. So basically, I also foresaw the financial what's happening now, and paradoxically, the DRT, which integrates into the CIT, citizen integration theory, is of course that theory, which of course happens to be back from that era, you know, back from that era. So basically, that's what it is. The DRT. Gotta give a shout out, because part of the DRT is inspired by that book. It was, I believe, published in 2008-2009 during the Great Financial Crisis, also known as the Great Financial Recession, also known as the Great Recession. So, of course, also known as the Great Recession. That is what it is with that, and that's what we gotta be doing. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, I'm going to explain it, includes monetary integration theory. So we're going to have to take all the public and the private debt, because again, we are on the verge of a public financial collapse. How come I make the statement? Due to the fact that just like an individual whose salary doesn't double, but the interest payments double, that individual, according to the mathematical financial principles, which are constant, because mathematics, you know, is those sets, rules, and laws, which sometimes we discover more about mathematics, formula, and how we reach the conclusion, but they're pretty much the constants which exist, just like the pi constant. And for us, geopolitically, our pi constant in geopolitics is, as Quebecers, Canadians, Quebecers, is to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States of America. That's what it is with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing. So that is what we gotta get doing with that beautiful. Wow, one of the best I saw yet. One of the best. Wow. What a beauty. What a beauty. Bravo. Well done. Just a gorgeous garden. So the DRT, debt refusion theory. So we're gonna take all, again, because an individual has to cut the budget. I'm asking Carney, Uncle Carney, Prime Minister Carney, what are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce in the spending? Uncle Kanye worked in banking finance. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic. The DRT, that refusion to you, because we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. A PPP, a public financial collapse. A PPP, a public financial collapse. A public financial collapse. The DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange rate. That's all we're going to get doing with that, you know, the universal exchange unit. That's what we're gonna get doing on the go, and we're gonna get doing on that LOV. So back to the financial collapse, just like an individual has to cut and reduce the spending, so of course us in the public, we're gonna have to reduce and cut. So what are we gonna cut? What are we gonna reduce? Right, in the spending. What are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce in the spending? You know, we're going to have to cut and reduce the spending. The public finance, the prisons, the RCMP, police. What are we going to cut? What are we going to do, you know? We're going to have to cut something in the budget. That is just what it is financially. Look at these beautiful flowers. So there's no other way with that. There's just no other way. Mathematically, financially, just the way it is. So that is just my call to all to support the DRT, and of course it's gonna pass by here. That's good. That gives me a little bit of hope, you know. Young love, LOV, holding hands, you know, that's worth fighting for, and being armed in the Dragon Army. that gives me hope, you know, somebody holding hands, loving, and youth getting on that summer love. You gotta be 18 to be loved with me, you know, otherwise you get sent back to your 18 of age to buy liquor and booze. You're black, white, or men and women. And the DRT, the debt refusion theory, we have to implement it because, of course, the interest rates, the amount of interest which we paid has grown so much. So basically, of course, that is the motive operandus, and the fact that we are on the verge of a public financial collapse on the horizon. So that is just how it is. There's no other way you can say left, right, center, the DRT, or something similar is the solution, because we're on the verge of a public and private financial collapse. There's just no way out of the situation. It's gonna discard some trash and get going, and that's where we are today, fellas. Oh, almost. That's where we are today. Cross on the other side. Across here and put a big smile on my face, you know, seeing young couples holding hands, you know, that summer love coming. So yes, I'm happy. Just that gives me hope right there, because somebody making love in the free world, you know, ain't not all about Wall Street. It's not all about Wall Street, you know. It's not all about money. It's not about love, and the children joyous and happy, and they're doing some of that love, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, and so we gotta get doing on that love, man, you know. So it's something which we gotta be on the remission and gotta support, you know, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, and that's how we're gonna get doing, you know. Gotta get doing for that, and that's what we're gonna get doing with XYZ, and so we're gonna get doing with the love, you know. So the DRT explained, we're gonna take all the public and the private, 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 all the public and the private debt. We're gonna have to take it. We're gonna have to take it off, and well, including my $10,000, your $10,000, whatever the case may be. My $10,000, your $10,000. Whatever you have as debt, my debt, your debt, our debt, collective, and refuse it. Convert all the Canadian public private debt into US dollars, right? Added with the US, all that money is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. All that money is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. So again, we're going to ask Carney, what are we going to cut? The prisons, the RCMP, the Mounties, RCMP, Royal Canadian Police, the RCMP, the RCMP, the RCMP. That's how we're gonna go, and that's how we're gonna get, you know. So that's how we're gonna go doing with that, you know. Something which we gotta get doing, you know. That's what we're gonna get doing, you know. So we're gonna get doing with that. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that. And so we're gonna get doing for the rock and roll, you know. And we're gonna get on that go, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, man. The DRT for the kingdom. Canada, United States has to be implemented jointly. Canada, United States. Go, public workers, go, and you know, can I ask again, what are we gonna cut? We have to reduce the RCMP, prisons, security, the healthcare, the national defense, because just like an individual who has to cut because the GDP, the economy of Canada didn't double. That's the thing, you know. Our GDP didn't double, but our interest more than doubled during COVID, which we pay. And I had COVID, I thought I was gonna die. And just like an individual has to cut the budget, the average salary has increased 4.4% since February 2020, in 5 years, February 2020 to February 2025. So we have to cut and reduce the spending. That's just how it is. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, we're gonna have to implement it across the collective. So that's how we're gonna get doing with that. And the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, all the public private debt, gonna hydrate a bit and switch to that French on the other side. Let's go, HYDRAT. Ah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I would love to paint here some blue, some purple, some orange, some pink, just because there's so many people, even black, white, black, but mix black and white mixed with some other colors. You know, I just love to pull a little bit of that and let's see what it do. Oh yeah. So that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. We have to cut the budget otherwise, just like an individual. And you know, bring me the tools, the permission. Bring me the tools, the permission, and I'll paint here. I don't mind. Just put some paint, whatever the case may be, and put some painting. And, oh, somebody lost the cake. Put some paint. Put some paint and put some blue, put some purple. Something colorful. I would love to volunteer, even not volunteer painting, you know. Just bring me the tools, the permission. I don't need no money because I pass your option and I just do it as a volunteer, you know. So we're gonna get doing with that. That's how we're gonna get rock and roll. Yeah. So that's what we're gonna get doing. Gonna get on that transmission side and gonna get doing for that love, and we're gonna get on that beautiful black crows. Saluting the train drivers or the railway, you know, conductors, railway conductors. They're not drivers. Well, they're driving in a way, but it's more conducting, you know, so I admire, man. Well, this civilization is a privilege. The DRT, Debt Refusion Theory. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, man. Take all the public private debt, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know. Getting on the XYZ, and that's what it is. Happy with the youth is happy, I'm happy, you know, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. That's what we're gonna get doing with XYZ. And so we gotta get doing for the love, you know. So, you know, that's what we're gonna get. LOV, man. That's what we're gonna do, man. Yeah, he's through laundry there. He's through laundry in the neighborhood there. So that's what we're gonna get doing for that, man. And you know, it's the telecommunication towers where they at somewhere there, and there's many of them. But back to the DRT, and again, what I was saying is that the only solution or something similar is, of course, the DRT, Debt Refusion Theory. The DRT, Debt Refusion Theory for the creation of the UE, because just like an individual citizen has to cut and reduce the spending, so of course we're gonna have to cut and reduce the spending in the public, you know, something which we gotta do. You know, we gotta get doing on that go, and we gotta get doing on the go side of things, you know, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. Gotta cross the street prudently, and here we cross, and gotta get it on the go, and gotta get some love, and you know, I gotta get LOV, you know. So all the public-private debt, again, where it's a matter of financial survival, because Canada and the United States are in a similar precarious situation. We have to reduce and cut the budget. There's no way around it. You can argue, Yes, no, maybe, but something similar to my DRT is the solution. We have to cut, reduce, just like an individual, according to the same financial mathematical principle, has to reduce what spends, maybe cut smoking cigarettes, cut whatever the case may be, reduce the spending. So it does apply to the public. Whatever we have is public services, the prisons, the RCMP, the sanitation, the DIC, all the public services. We have to cut and reduce. So that is just what is happening, That's why we build big parks like this. This was built this year. It's put into practice here. So we have to implement the DRT, debt refusion theory. We're going to take all the public and the private debt. All the public and the private debt. My debt is $10,000, right? So I have $10,000 to the RBC. Gonna hydrate a bit. So I have $10,000 to the RBC. $10,000 in debt. So I have $10,000 to the RBC. My debt is $10,000. $10,000. That is my debt. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. We're gonna convert it into US dollars, add it with the US dollars. That's what it is. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, So something which we gotta be meditating about that, man. This is I love seeing people exercise, get that fitness in, and dancing is my favorite sport, rock and roll, but I love to see a little bit of that basketball, playing a little bit of the hoops, get it on the go and doing a little bit, playing on that, and I love to see that workout, train, exercise, whatever fitness it is. I love all sports, love basketball. Probably, dancing is my favorite sport, but then it's probably like gridiron, North American football and boxing, so I'm kind of in that order. And I guess hockey, basketball then, and I guess baseball after that. Dancing is first. Love to dance. So the DRT, back to the DRT, all the debt, public and private debt, we're gonna take it all. We're gonna convert it into US dollars. All the money we're gonna convert into US dollars, add it with the US. We're gonna add it with the US dollars. That money is gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank, whatever we're gonna call it. Call it North American Central Integrated Bank, Dragon Bank. What a PPP takes a public-private partnership. That's right. Calling on astrological brother Bill Gates, others of Black Rock, Blackstone. They're two different. They're split in the 90s. The public and private financial institution will be required, and you're gonna take that private affair, and public affair together as a dance, and those are private financial institutions: Black Rock and Vanguard, Blackstone, and RBC, and others. TD, Toronto Dominion here, RBC here, my bank, my only bank, where I have $10,000 in debt on it. Not credit cards, I have a credit line, so I don't have credit cards. But if somebody does, and if the interest more than doubles in just 3 years, then one has to cut and reduce the spending. That is the same mathematical financial principle which applies with the public debt of Canada, because our GDP didn't double. So what are we going to cut again, Mr. Carney? Uncle Carney. We're going to cut the RCMP. Cut the RCMP Mounties. Cut the prisons, sanitation, those who pick up the garbage, the compost, the recycling. We have to reduce the budget because the economy didn't double and we didn't have mass FDI. That's why I'm calling for the septennium for the implementation of my theory, which is the solution, the DRT, debt refusion theory, to create the UE. U.universal, U.exchange, U.unit for a new central bank. U.universal, U.exchange, U.unit, universal exchange, and U.universal, U.exchange, U.unit. The universal exchange unit, the universal exchange unit. The universal exchange unit. The universal exchange unit. Value of the US dollar, it will have the same value of the US dollar. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10% maximum. It could be 3.33, 1.56, 7.18, 4.18, 3.33, 1.56, below 10%, but not more than 10%. With that money, we're going to rebuild the infrastructure of the North American Collective. We're going to build the bridges, the construction, the aqueducts. We're going to mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, mass finance citizens to work out, to train to exercise and mass finance fitness, because fitness is good for the body. And for the 10 provinces, 50 territories, 50 states and 3 provinces, 63. The Dragon Army, aka North American Integrated SSD Legion. The legions of the 63 only is only for SSD, security, service and defense. And of course the Dancing Goddess Army, the North American Integrated Dance League, to operate solely and only for the environmental education and action. Because you saw in my past videos, you see when I check the garbage, I check it, and it's things which have to go inside, things which should not go there, should go into recycling, and they go into garbage, eh? So we have to do our individual part and the collective part, and that's all we have to do. Our individual part and the collective part, and that's all we have to do. Our individual part and the collective part, and that's all we have to be doing with that, and that's all we have to be doing, you know. It's something which we have. The DRT, the Debt Refusion Treaty for the creation of the Universal Exchange Unit, the Universal Exchange Unit. That's what we're gonna have to do. The Universal Exchange Unit, that's what we're gonna have to do, you know. So it's something which we have to implement. The DRT, the Debt Refusion Theory for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. The DRT, Debt Refusion Theory for the creation of the Universal Exchange. That's the solution. That is the solution, you know. That is the solution. There's no other way out of this. They just are what they are. So the DRT, Debt Refusion Theory for the creation of the Universal Exchange Unit, is the solution. With that money, we're going to have to rebuild the North American infrastructure, the collective. We're going to mass finance. We're going to build those 44 tunnels. The 44 tunnels. Build those 44 tunnels, and that's all we're going to have to be doing, the 44 tunnels, you know. In case of a thermonuclear war, which can happen any second. Thermonuclear war, which can happen any second. So those are things which can happen, of course, and that's how we're going to get doing with that. The DRT, the Debt Refusion Theory, is the solution. There's no other solution. And we're going to build those 44 mass finance citizens fitness, mass finance the rebuilding of the aqueducts, the infrastructure, whatever it is, the collective, and that's how we're going to get doing with that, and that's how we're going to get doing with the drills, man, you know. It's something which we got to be implementing, and we got to be operating on, and that's how we got to get doing, you know. So something which we got to go.
Yeah, when I graduate,
Et voilà, on est rendu pour l'enfoncer un petit peu d'encouragement pour le faire, l'entraînement physique. Je vous encourage, je viens de discuter de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, une petite chanson de Rock&Roll. Soutenez votre artiste athlète N.A.C.W.P, qui n'est pas parfait, loin de l'être. Aujourd'hui, dans ces jours de pluie, je porte le trench coat, le parapluie, comme pour la pluie, là, comme servi, mais c'est mon ami anonyme qui était mon ami à cause de l'argent. C'est parce que j'ai pas eu beaucoup d'argent, mais si je fais un million, je vais donner la moitié. Puis je suis artiste, athlète, philosophe, analyste et théoricien en géopolitique qui s'entraîne à faire l'analyse en géopolitique 24/24. Et bien sûr, l'entraînement physique a été sera ma médecine et thérapie de choix. Donc c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, que je dois continuer à faire. Et c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, pour faire dans ce mode, bien sûr, d'avoir dû faire un suivi. Puis je fais toujours mon travail en tant qu'artiste, en tant que YouTuber. Puis mes analyses en géopolitique, je prends beaucoup de fierté. J'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant en 2019. J'ai prévu la situation actuelle. Ça fait quand même plus que 5 ans. J'avais prévu qu'il y aura une conflagration internationale sur l'horizon qui viendra dans les prochains J'ai dit dans les prochains 7 ans, commençant par octobre-novembre 2019. Fait que je prends beaucoup de fierté dans mon travail en tant qu'analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, je dois le dire. Puis bien sûr que vous savez que j'ai cette condition de neurodivergence, l'Asperger's. Je fais partie de cette petite minorité de moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'1%. C'est 0,44. Pas beaucoup de gens qui ont cette condition de neurodivergence, encore une fois. C'est pas une maladie mentale. C'est pas une maladie mentale, c'est juste que notre cerveau, des cerveaux des aspis comme moi, il y a des mutations dans le cerveau. Fait qu'à cause de ces mutations, du niveau du cérébellum, du cerveau, on voit le monde différemment. Fait que nous, la plupart de notre temps se préoccupe et se préoccupe bien sûr. C'est des préoccupations qui se trouvent autour de ces intérêts spéciaux. La plupart de notre routine quotidienne, là, moi, ça fait bien des années, là, je fais la même chose, mais ça me dérange pas bien le changement, surtout économique, financier, parce qu'en ce moment, je vis une crise financière. Puis je suis artiste aussi en tant que philosophe et analyste théoricien en géopolitique. C'est ma trinité d'intérêts spéciaux. Et les aspects, quand on travaille dans ces intérêts spéciaux, quand on étudie, quand on est super concentré, super dedans, super intense. Puis moi-même, aujourd'hui, en faisant mon lavage, ça a pris 4 heures, là, plus que 4 heures totales, là, parce que le lavage, ça prend 1 heure, puis dans la sécheuse, 1 heure, fait que chaque pile, ça prend 2 heures, fait que 2 plus 2, pour en heure que j'en ai fait 2, là. Bien, la gratitude pour avoir la machine, la laveuse, la sécheuse, parce que auparavant, avant que j'aille ça, l'accès à ça chez nous, j'allais dépenser l'argent dans les buanderies, là, fait que ça enlevait un peu de la pression là-dessus, là, fait que c'est des choses que je dois avoir la gratitude. Comme j'ai la gratitude aujourd'hui pour les sandwichs tantôt que j'ai eu dans le frigo, puis bien sûr, dans le frigidaire, tu sais, tantôt, au début de la vidéo, là, fait que pour le don, je pourrais en faire une analyse en géopolitique sur juste les sandwichs, l'importance des sandwichs, tu sais, à cause des sandwichs, là, parce que c'est toute une géopolitique actuelle. Ça a fait que ça a changé, bien sûr, dans ce domaine de la géopolitique. Bien sûr que ça a changé, en effet, toute notre atmosphère dans le collectif, à cause, bien sûr, dans le collectif, bien sûr, dans le collectif de la civilisation des États-Unis vis-à-vis à nous. Puis je vais répéter cette constance-là. Il y a une constance là, vis-à-vis comme le chiffre pi, là. Tu sais, le chiffre pi, bien sûr, 3.1416. 18, puis ça continue, là, 3.1415, ça continue à l'infinitum, là. Ça continue, bien sûr, à l'infinitum, mais c'est des choses, bien sûr, dans l'infinitum, que ça... Mais c'est constamment ça change pas, bien sûr. Ça change pas, ce chiffre-là. Fait que ce chiffre-là, ça change pas. Fait que c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je fasse moi-même, tu sais. Bon. Je veux dire, qu'en géopolitique, vu que c'est mon royaume, mon domaine, je dois dire encore une fois le principe qui ne change pas pour nous, les Québécois, Canadiens, Québécois. Puis celle-là, c'est en première place. Tout avant tout dans la politique, dans la géopolitique externe, je parle pas de l'interne, là, domestique, mais externe, extérieur. Notre intérêt fondamental, principalement les Québécois, Canadiens, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, financières, commerciales, culturelles avec les États-Unis. Ça, c'est comme le chiffre pi qui est pour la circonférence d'un cercle. Là, c'est pi est égal à circonférence divisé par le diamètre. Puis c'est relation x 3. C'est toujours x 3.1416. Mathématiquement, c'est constamment ces choses-là. Tu sais, c'est constance. Fait que c'est constamment ces choses-là dans la mathématique. Vous comprenez? Fait que de manière de la géopolitique, c'est la même chose pour la géopolitique que nous, en tant que le Canadien québécois. Puis je dis souvent, je dis toujours, le roi est absent, ça va s'en venir après. C'est jamais venu le roi puis la reine depuis 50 ans, je sais pas quoi, puis là, ça vient la semaine prochaine. C'est le temps pour la République. Le roi est absent. Pas besoin de prêter allégeance au roi, je veux rien savoir de ça. Ça aurait dû rester dans le 20e siècle, ce roi. Pas besoin dans le 21e siècle pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Là. Notre intérêt fondamental, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. That's all. C'est le Commonwealth, oui, non, mais c'est abstrait, là. C'est pas réel en géopolitique. On peut rentrer dans l'abstrait, mais dans la géopolitique réelle, c'est qu'on doit avoir les meilleures relations économiques, financières, commerciales, diplomatiques avec les États-Unis. Vous comprenez? je sais bien, vous rentrez dans l'abstrait, bien, Commonwealth, tout ça, oui, dans une possible blablabla, mais non, la réalité aujourd'hui, en 2000, le mai, 20 mai, là, 2025, c'est que, comme là, 44 ans, 40 ans, et depuis bien longtemps, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. Depuis à peu près, depuis, mettons, que l'Empire britannique s'est dissolu, 1947, là, je veux dire, avec l'Inde, là, 1947 avec l'Inde, parce que c'est là vraiment ça a commencé à s'effondrer, l'Empire britannique, là. On va dire depuis ce temps-là au moins, je veux dire ça. Si on veut avoir une discussion en géopolitique, c'est ça qu'on peut, mais c'est constamment ça, c'est pas oui, je veux dire c'est oui, c'est pas non peut-être, cette déclaration que je fais maintenant. En première place, là, fondamentalement, notre intérêt principal, première place, numéro 1, Québécois, Canadiens, Québécois, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, sociales, commerciales, de défense, de sécurité avec les États-Unis. Il n'y a pas de peut-être, non. Il n'y a pas de non, c'est sûr, puis il n'y a pas de peut-être. C'est oui. Si vous voulez rentrer dans l'abstrait, le Commonwealth, puis les 44 plus pays du Commonwealth, blablabla, on peut rentrer dans l'abstrait, dans ces jeux-là d'abstrait, mais la réalité, c'est que en géopolitique, c'est ça. C'est pas d'avoir, avec le roi Charles puis l'Angleterre, ils ont leurs problèmes en Europe, là, avec la Russie qui a la crise de l'Ukraine, là, puis le réarmement de l'Allemagne. Là. Ça, c'est quelque chose, un tabou, hein. C'est un tabou, ça. C'est un tabou parce qu'il y a bien des problèmes dans la Première Guerre mondiale, puis dans la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. C'est que les Allemands, c'est un tabou, ça. Là, il y a un bris de tabou. Il y a plusieurs bris de tabou, là. Je parle pas de tabou comme nous, tu sais, le tabou, ben, c'est que moi, en tant qu'Asperger's, nous, on est confondu avec des, tu sais, que ça, c'est une maladie mentale, l'Asperger. C'est pas ça, c'est que notre cerveau, il y a des mutations. Fait que oui, dans certaines choses, je suis étrange, je suis un peu bizarre, j'ai de la misère dans certaines choses, puis mes intérêts spéciaux, aussi connus comme intérêts obsessifs chez les Asperger, encore une fois, ils doivent être encouragés le plus possible dans ces intérêts-là. Moi, c'est la géopolitique, c'est mon royaume, c'est mon domaine. Quel sujet? Mais on amène sur la table. Laquelle sujet vous voulez sur la table de l'Asperger's, que ce soit un sujet ou un autre. Vous voulez faire que ça soit, bien sûr, d'un sujet pour la géopolitique réelle. Je parle pas, tu sais, je parle pas de l'abstrait non plus. On peut rentrer dans l'abstrait, comme quand je dis que le roi est absent, c'est abstrait. Ça veut dire, bien sûr, que je m'oppose à que on a encore de la couronne. Quand je dis c'est le temps pour la République, ben je dis mes réformes, bien sûr, pour qu'est-ce que j'appelle le collectif de la civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord, qui est fondamentalement mon rêve. Le royaume de la déesse du dragon qui danse, c'est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé, bien sûr. C'est quelque chose que moi-même, je dois le faire pour mettre sur la table. Bien sûr, la théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est quelque chose de bien sûr qu'il faut qu'on fasse dans ce point d'avoir aujourd'hui où qu'on est rendu de côte à côte de siècle. Mes protocoles initiatifs sont seulement pour la SSD, Sécurité, Service, Défense, puis Renaissance. Un peu de joie puis de comédie de temps en temps artistique avec celle-là, bien sûr. Mais tout ce que ça englobe, tu sais. Le collectif nord-américain, parce qu'on constitue un collectif de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord. On n'est pas tout à fait divorcés, mais on a des distinctions avec l'Occident. Fait qu'on n'est pas divorcés, mais on a des distinctions avec l'Occident. Fait que ces distinctions-là, ben, ils peuvent paraître dans certaines choses culturelles, sociales, de normes du sport, etc., de leur géographie, bien sûr. On a 2 océans de côte à côte, l'Atlantique et le Pacifique. Puis là, bien sûr, pour dire, bien sûr, ben c'est ça. En géopolitique, c'est nous, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, financières, diplomatiques, commerciales, culturelles, de sécurité, de défense avec les États-Unis en première place. À cause de la géographie, puis notre destin commun en tant qu'étant un collectif de civilisation nouveau. Le roi est absent, là. Pas besoin de venir nous voir. Là. Faut faire quoi? En tout cas. Puis, encore une fois, l'Asperger's, l'autisme mode fonctionnel dans lequel je vis, ça fait que j'ai ces intérêts spéciaux qui préoccupent la plupart de mon temps. Avec intensité, avec concentration, je suis super dedans quand je fais ces choses-là. Puis moi, c'est ma trinité, c'est la géopolitique, du matin au soir, 24/24, le sport, la danse. Danser est mon sport préféré. Après ça, c'est le football américain, de la CFL, Ligue de football canadienne, et la Ligue de football nationale, le football américain, là. Puis après ça, la boxe, le hockey, puis la gymnastique, le basket, j'aime tout le sport, le sport, là, l'activité physique, le jogging, tout ça, qu'est-ce qu'il y a à faire avec le physique, l'activité physique générale, là, la musculation aussi, hein, toutes ces choses-là. Puis danser, mon sport préféré, puis la marche, entraînement de danse que j'en fais en ce moment, bien sûr. Puis le rock-and-roll, c'est ma trinité, puis j'en compose des bonnes chansons au quotidien, en français puis en anglais puis en français. Puis je suis artiste, mais il y a des choses que j'ai de la misère, là, du point de vue du social, là, communication sociale ou communication non verbale, c'est sûr que j'ai de la misère. Tu sais. C'est des choses, bien sûr, que j'ai de la misère dans certaines choses. Fait que dans d'autres choses, c'est sûr que j'ai plus de misère, mais dans d'autres choses, je suis super bon comme en géopolitique. Le fait que j'aille prévu, mais malheureusement, ces intérêts spéciaux, ils viennent des fois au détriment d'autres choses. Ben, c'est sûr que moi, je nettoie chez nous, je fais mon lavage, je fais sur là, mais d'autres choses, des fois, c'est faut me le dire. Puis nous, les aspects, des fois, un peu paraître direct, là, comme quand on offense. Mais moi, je la cultive depuis bien longtemps, la politesse. Je peux être poli, gentil, tout ça, parce que j'aime ça, tu sais. Puis c'est peut-être, ça fait partie de moi, mais des fois, dans certaines choses, quand ça vient de la politique ou la géopolitique, je dis des choses peut-être brusques, peut-être directement, tu sais, comme direct un peu, puis... C'est direct, là, tu sais. C'est plus direct de même. Des fois, c'est pas... C'est direct, là. Puis des fois, ça peut être étrange, là, tu sais, comme... Un peu offensé. C'est pas par volonté, c'est juste que... Notre cerveau, il y a des mutations, fait que dans d'autres choses, on est bon, super bon, et on peut être médiocre comme ça, pas bon dans d'autres choses. Bon, là, je vais vite expliquer la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est urgent, c'est après, c'est super important que je la discute, puis qu'on fasse l'implémentation de ma TRD, parce que on est en train d'avoir une crise financière sur l'horizon, public ainsi que privé, parce qu'il y a un record. Hein. Moi, j'ai 10 000 de dette à la Banque Royale sur la ligne de crédit, mais les cartes de crédit, là, c'est rendu qu'il y a un niveau record des cartes de crédit, de dette, surendettement, puis sur le public aussi. Tellement de dette dans le public, tellement de dette publique, ça, l'intérêt qu'on a payé l'année passée, c'était plus que double que voilà 3 ans, 4 ans. À cause de la COVID, moi-même, j'ai survécu la COVID, tu sais, la coronavirus, je me suis fait vacciner 3 fois, je vis avec mes cicatrices, bien sûr, puis c'est des choses, bien sûr, que moi-même, je vis avec mes cicatrices. Mais la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, qui contient dans d'elle la théorie d'intégration monétaire. La théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait que la TRD, théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est bien sûr la théorie que les Européens ont fait l'implémentation. Fait que la TRD, je vous l'explique. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, je vous l'explique. Théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. On va apprendre parce que là, il va falloir qu'on coupe quelque chose, comme je demande à mon oncle Carney, qu'est-ce qu'on va couper? On va devoir couper quelque chose parce que l'intérêt est record. Comment qu'on paye d'un record d'intérêt, là? C'est pas possible de garder ça, là. De même, le principe mathématique, c'est comme un individu, il faut qu'il coupe dans son budget. C'est la même chose, on va couper quoi dans le public? La sanitation, le ramassage des poubelles, la GRC, la police, gendarmerie royale, la prison, des choses comme ça. Qu'est-ce qu'on va couper, je vous demande? Mon oncle Carney, parce que l'intérêt, ça a plus que doublé, sauf que l'économie du Canada n'a pas doublé. C'est ça le problème, notre économie n'a pas doublé comme un individu. Si l'intérêt double, puis sauf que le salaire ne double pas, il faut que il faut que ça coupe dans le budget. C'est le principe mathématique, là. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution là-dessus. Vous imaginez-vous là, qu'on est en train d'avoir un effondrement. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait que je vous l'explique tout de suite. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette. Public-privé, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, de côte à côte, mon 10 000, on va faire la conversion dans la devise des États-Unis. On va ramasser, on va mettre ensemble avec la dette des États-Unis. Tout ça, toute cette dette-là, public-privé, toute la dette public-privée, bien sûr, on va faire tout ça, un ramassage ensemble et on va mettre ensemble. Fait que toute la dette public-privée, bien sûr, on va faire l'addition avec les États-Unis. On va faire, bien sûr, toute cette dette public-privé, on va la mettre ensemble. Fait que toute cette dette publique-privée, ensemble, on va faire une nouvelle monnaie ensemble. Ça va être l'art du dollar des États-Unis. On va faire la création de l'UI. U point unité, E point échange, U point universel. U point unité, E point échange universel. U point unité, E point échange universel. U point unité, E point échange universel. Le UI, l'unité d'échange universel, va avoir la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. Fait que cet argent-là, on va le mettre ensemble, bien sûr, dans ce contexte de la civilisation gestion du complexe des États-Unis, bien sûr. C'est des choses, quelque chose qu'on aille faire, bien sûr, qu'on fasse dans l'intérêt public et d'avoir cette estimation de la génération à laquelle on vit aujourd'hui. C'est bien sûr de faire l'unité d'échange universel. L'unité d'échange universel qui va avoir la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. On va mettre toute la dette ensemble. Tout cet argent-là, encore une fois, ça va être la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. Fait que la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, toute cette dette-là, toute cette dette-là, on va prendre ensemble, toute la dette publique-privée, on va prendre ensemble, tu sais, TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, on va prendre tout ça ensemble. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, on va prendre tout ça ensemble. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, on va prendre ensemble toute cette théorie. Fait que bien sûr, toute la dette publique-privée, tout ensemble. Et toute la dette va avoir une valeur énorme. On va additionner avec les États-Unis. On va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10%. Avec cet argent-là, bien sûr, on va rebâtir l'infrastructure, on va financer les gens à l'entraînement physique, on va bâtir l'Osse centrale d'Hydro-Québec, construire les 44 tunnels. On va bâtir, construire les 44. On va bâtir, construire les 44 tunnels. Les 44 tunnels vont être construits, bien sûr, dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire. On va devoir faire, bien sûr, dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, on va bâtir ces 44 tunnels à travers le collectif des associations des États-Unis. Puis, bien sûr, on va financer les gens au tourisme. On va financer les 2 institutions de partenariat public-privé, soit l'armée de la déesse qui danse pour l'environnement, l'éducation, là, bien sûr, pour le collectif Integree de Civilisation, la Légion, l'armée du Dragon, pour les 63 légions, qui va opérer sur les protocoles de SSD, sécurité, service défense, sécurité, service, défense seulement pour la SSD, sécurité, service, défense seulement, avec bien sûr l'armée de la déesse qui danse, qui va être la Ligue de danse intégrée de l'Amérique du Nord pour l'environnement, qui va fonctionner pour l'environnement, l'éducation, puis bien sûr pour le ramassage, le nettoyage des vallées, là, comme vous avez vu l'éducation, là, mes vidéos passées, là, que des fois je vois dans le public, je marche, puis je check dans la poubelle avec la caméra, puis on voit que des choses du recyclage sont dans la poubelle, fait que ça devrait pas être là, puis dans d'autres mots, on doit faire notre part en tant qu'individu pour le collectif. Prêtez allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille. Et la chanson Rock&Roll. Prêtez allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille. Et la chanson Rock&Roll. Prêtez allégeance, les gens. Et la Légion.